With the rest of the team, we've put together a show called Relics: A New World Rises. The basic idea of the show is that it is set in the year 2530, and humans no longer remain on planet Earth. Amongst the waste, a collection of forgotten objects now blossom with LEGO worlds. Minifigures have given life to these objects, and it allows you to see LEGO in a way you maybe haven't before. The exhibition is currently on display at the South Australia Museum from March 4th to July 23rd, 2023, and that's over in Adelaide, Australia, so if you're there, be sure to take a look. But for now, let's briefly show you what you can expect at Relics: A New World Rises. I'm going to show you all of these blossoming LEGO civilizations, each one inspired by the relic that they now call home. This is just going to be a brief overview of everything. I'm going to be posting more individual videos on each of the individual models, so stay tuned for that. But for now, let's dive in. The first relic is 88th Street, a street precinct that offers grand theatres with many wonderful performances for the minifigures to see. The street is filled with lots of life and plenty of references to musicals and other things as well. And of course, this is all built on an old piano. All of the objects that you're going to see here do this. They combine real-world objects and LEGO bricks as well. You can see on the street one of these Marvel power energy effect pieces being used as a bursting water pipe, as well as various round tiles used for these cobblestone streets. There's certainly a lot going on 88th Street here. Bleach Beach is a jet ski with LEGO built onto it. This one's a more kind of fun tropical oasis with plenty of bright and poppy colours being used. There's lots of fun details scattered throughout this, like these wonderful palm trees. There's also a nice golf course with lots of fun storytelling scattered all throughout. But there's also a lot of places for minifigures to swim and relax. It's got everything. What I think's nice about this relic is it's a lovely testament to how helpful and also how pretty a lot of these unique colours can be, and often these colours come in LEGO Friends sets, so don't discredit those sets. Using some of those colours helps to create such a brilliant and distinct atmosphere with this relic here. It's really nice to see, and it's certainly something you could do yourself if you play with some of those colours. Up next is the Cosmic Arcade. Various arcade machines have become settings for minifigures to create their own network of space stations. This old Space Invaders machine houses the fusion reactor that powers all of the different space stations that you're seeing, but there's also a commercial hub for minifigures to shop and hang out. The Gallagher machine houses some more residential accommodation with a plethora of fun storytelling going on throughout. And finally, there is the Claw machine, which acts as a launch pad for spaceships. But one of the old teddy bears still remains, and you can see that he has a bit more of a unique change to him. One thing that's cool about this relic is that it really takes advantage of a lot of different lights to really create some fantastic effects, especially with this nice little tunnel here with a spaceship flying through it. There's something about it that really immerses you in that space and sci-fi world. It's incredible what lighting can do for a LEGO model, and this is a good example of just how nice that can look. The CryoLife Resort and Wellness Center is up next. These minifigures have converted an old fridge into a kind of cryogenic freezing center. So you can see with the fridge door, it's lined with all of these cryopods, and there's various minifigures inside of them. And then the kind of outside of the resort has many different minifigures skiing and playing in the snow, all that sort of stuff. But there's also a lot of nice movement all throughout this MOC. There's some spinning fans here, and also some of these moving elevators within the actual center itself. Towards the top here, you might have noticed there's this sneaky little Duplo snowflake piece here. Now, it's nice to see a Duplo piece being used, and it's such a nice kind of focal point on this MOC. And again, don't really discredit your Duplo pieces, because sometimes like this, it can be a really nice added unique detail that's just the perfect finishing touch for any MOC. Duplo's cool. There's some good pieces in it sometimes, so have a look at it and see if it can improve your MOC in some way. Then let's move over to Cathode Studios, where minifigures are producing blockbuster movies as well as some news programs as well. So obviously the LEGO inside the televisions is showing different settings and scenes from these TV shows, but then you can actually watch the TV shows on some of the other television screens where you can see stop motions depicting what the LEGO looks like when it comes to life. There's various printed elements that help make up all the different filming equipment and other different things, so it's nice to see how some printed elements can really be put to good use here. And I think it makes this relic feel a lot more real and accurate. It's also nice to see things like backdrops and lighting and other parts that make up these film sets and helps represent what it actually looks like. It's a good example of doing a little bit of research into the actual thing and then just simply building that into Lego form. The research is so important to really recreate an awesome Lego model. Now let's move over to the New World Credit Union. So this is an ATM that houses a bank interior, which is nicely detailed with some of these like marbled floors. Now these have a variety of really nice techniques to them, including things like cheese mosaics, using some of these cheese slopes to achieve these cool zigzag patterns, and then achieving even more nice patterns using some of these arch pieces here. That's the perfect way to pull off this gorgeous technique. Up on the back wall here, we can see this really unique statue, as well as a chandelier with a criminal hanging off of it here. And there's actually criminals all throughout the bank here. And when we look at the bottom, we can see a motorized bank vault door that opens, and there's some criminals inside who have succeeded in stealing some of the gold inside. And to top it all off, on top of the ATM, we can see some of the bank owners enjoying their wealth and just throwing money into the fireplace. On to the next one, we have the Storyteller's Nook. Here some minifigures have studied the books that were previously on this shelf and then built worlds based off of what they were reading. There's everything from different medical facilities which feature all sorts of fun stories and even a few funny references as well. There's a wonderful pirate cove with plenty of treasure, and additionally some different art galleries and places for minifigures to make art are also shown here as well. And then finally we have a castle shelf with some lovely stained glass windows that use some of these turntable bases, some trans-colored pieces behind it, and some lighting to achieve this really striking effect. Terraburbia is next. Now this one was once a server tower, but now minifigures have salvaged the components to build their own cyber city, and it's called Terraburbia. The idea is that the minifigures have uploaded their consciousness into a virtual dimension where they can live a pretty normal, average existence in a perfectly bland world, which is exactly what they want. And you can see this world reflected on some of the TV monitors here with again a little bit more stop motion to reflect that. One of the most impressive things about this, I think, is the fact that this uses some blacklight. And it's nice because certain Lego pieces react very nicely under blacklight, and it just really makes this pop. It's amazing how much the blacklight here gives this such a unreal, awesome aesthetic, which you don't really see every day. It's very cyberpunky and very fun. Now let's head over to the Studs Diner. This is an old jukebox that has been turned into its own town. We can see things like a mechanic shop, which is packed full of detail as they work on this car. There's also a diner within this as well that uses some of the video tile pieces to work as album covers that are on display on the wall. Very much fits that diner aesthetic. And of course, outside there's a marching band on parade, all going through these city streets, and they're just filled with life and people having fun. On top of the jukebox where the music would be, we see a band playing and rocking out in this ballroom here. And I think this is another example of how brilliant an atmosphere you can create if you use lighting in your Lego MOCs. It really does elevate this so much and make this feel so lived in and so real. Up next is Time Punk's Tower. So we've turned this old grandfather clock into a bit of a time machine here. This group of time punks have been hoarding trinkets and treasures from across time, and you can see in the depths of this relic some of the incredible goods and people that they've managed to hoard. There's a lot of movement to this relic, and it really is a sight to behold. There's even a few Bionicle pieces being used here that fit right at home with these wonderful colors and this almost cyberpunk aesthetic. Just linger a little bit longer on some of the fantastic movement within this relic because it's certainly one of my favorites here and it just looks awesome. And finally, let's finish with Beatlesville. This old Beetle, which is now filled with Lego, was the perfect setting for this ramshackle town. So there's an old oil-obsessed dictator that rules over this town, and this town is powered by the oil from this fuel drum. Now this fuel goes into the engine at the back of the car, which gives power to all of the citizens in the town at the front of the Beetle. But the fuel is starting to run out and unrest is brewing. As you can see, all the minifigures are protesting and just not happy about what's happening. So there's certainly a lively story going on with this relic. There's a lot of chain pieces and really rough textures that have been used all throughout this to really sell that ramshackle aesthetic. We can see reddish brown tiles serving as wooden planks and light and dark grey tiles used for metal sheets. And this kind of sells that realistic look. You imagine that these minifigures have just thrown things together with wood and metal supporting it, and that's being reflected with these pieces. Really paying attention to colors as well as textures is always the perfect way to execute the story and ideas that you might have in your head, and there's just a couple different ways that that's been done here. So that's Relics and New World Rises. There'll be more detailed videos coming soon focusing on all of the individual relics in a lot more detail, so stay tuned for that. But if you can't wait, don't forget it's on display at the South Australia Museum in Adelaide from March 4th to July 23rd, 2023. There'll be links in the description below if you want to buy your tickets, but otherwise, happy building and bye for now.